In early 2026, tensions in the Middle East escalated rapidly as the United States began deploying an unprecedented concentration of naval power near Iran. What started as a routine military presence quickly turned into one of the largest U.S. naval buildups in the region in years. When reports emerged that Washington was sending a third aircraft carrier strike group toward the Middle East, analysts around the world began asking the same question: what exactly was happening, and why was the United States preparing such an enormous show of force so close to Iran's borders? To understand the significance of this deployment, we need to start with the backbone of American naval power, the Aircraft Carrier Strike Group. Each U.S. carrier operates as a floating airbase capable of launching dozens of fighter jets, surveillance aircraft, and helicopters. A single carrier strike group is normally accompanied by multiple guided missile destroyers, cruisers, submarines, and support vessels. Together, they create a mobile military force that can conduct airstrikes, missile defense, intelligence operations, and maritime security across an entire region. When three of these groups operate in the same theater, it represents a massive concentration of combat capability. The buildup began when the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln was ordered to deploy to the Middle East under U.S. Central Command. The carrier arrived with a powerful escort of guided missile destroyers and other warships carrying advanced aircraft such as the F/A-18 Super Hornet and electronic warfare platforms designed to dominate the skies and seas. The deployment was part of Washington's response to rising tensions with Iran and was intended to reinforce regional security and deter potential threats against U.S. forces and allies. The arrival of the USS Abraham Lincoln alone already signaled a serious escalation. But within weeks, reports emerged that the United States was preparing to send another carrier to the region. The massive USS Gerald R, the most advanced aircraft carrier ever built, began moving toward the Middle East accompanied by destroyers and support ships. This deployment created a rare-to-carrier presence in the region, dramatically increasing the U.S. Navy's operational reach. For military planners, having two aircraft carriers operating within the same theater is a powerful strategic tool. It allows continuous air operations around the clock, expands the range of strike missions, and ensures that if one carrier must reposition or conduct maintenance operations, the second carrier can immediately take over the mission. But even with two carriers already in the region, the buildup did not stop there. Soon after, reports surfaced that the United States was preparing to deploy a third aircraft carrier to the Middle East, the USS George H.W. Bush. The deployment would bring three carrier strike groups into the same operational area, an extraordinary move that had rarely been seen in recent years. Analysts quickly interpreted the move as a signal that Washington was preparing for the possibility of a prolonged confrontation in the region. To understand why this deployment mattered so much, we have to consider the broader geopolitical environment at the time. Relations between the United States and Iran had been deteriorating for months. Disputes over Iran's nuclear program, regional influence, and military activities had intensified. Meanwhile, conflicts involving Iran's regional allies and proxy groups were increasing tensions across the Middle East, raising concerns that the situation could escalate into a larger confrontation. For Washington, deploying additional naval forces served multiple purposes. First, it demonstrated military readiness and the ability to respond quickly to emerging threats. Second, it reassured U.S. allies in the region, including countries in the Gulf that depend on American security partnerships. And third, it created a powerful deterrent message directed at Tehran. Any attack on U.S. forces or partners could trigger a rapid and overwhelming response. Aircraft carriers play a unique role in this kind of deterrence strategy. Unlike land-based forces, which require host nation approval and fixed infrastructure, carriers can operate in international waters and reposition themselves rapidly. Within hours, the aircraft aboard them can conduct reconnaissance missions, enforce no-fly zones, intercept hostile aircraft, or launch precision strikes. This flexibility makes carrier strike groups one of the most powerful tools in modern naval warfare. But as the third carrier moved closer to the region, something unexpected happened. The military situation in the Middle East became even more volatile. Reports emerged of intensified military operations involving Iranian assets and U.S. forces. In one incident, U.S. military operations reportedly targeted Iranian naval capabilities, including a vessel believed to support drone operations in the Gulf of Oman. The strike was part of broader efforts to counter Iranian military assets and maintain freedom of navigation in the region's strategic waterways. Events like this highlighted how fragile the situation had become. The Persian Gulf and surrounding waters are some of the most strategically important maritime corridors in the world. A large percentage of global oil shipments passes through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway located between Iran and Oman. Any disruption to shipping traffic in this region can have immediate consequences for global energy markets and international trade. For decades, the United States has maintained a naval presence in the region specifically to protect these critical shipping lanes. Carrier strike groups provide the ability to monitor maritime activity, escort commercial vessels if necessary, and respond to threats ranging from missile attacks to drone strikes. At the same time, Iran has developed its own strategies to counter the overwhelming technological advantage of the U.S. Navy. Rather than building large fleets comparable to American carrier groups, Iran has invested heavily in asymmetric warfare capabilities. These include fast attack boats, anti-ship missiles, naval mines, and increasingly sophisticated drone systems. By using these tools, Iran can potentially threaten much larger and more advanced naval forces operating near its coastline. This dynamic creates a tense military balance in the region. On one hand, the United States possesses unmatched naval power, including nuclear-powered aircraft carriers capable of projecting force across entire continents. On the other hand, Iran has developed strategies designed specifically to challenge that dominance within the confined waters of the Persian Gulf. As the three carrier groups moved into position, military analysts began debating what the deployment might mean. Some argued that the buildup was purely defensive, designed to deter further escalation and stabilize the region. Others believed it could signal preparations for potential military operations if diplomatic tensions continued to worsen. Regardless of the interpretation, one thing was clear: the concentration of naval power in the region had reached a level rarely seen in recent years. Carrier strike groups, destroyers, submarines, and supporting aircraft formed a massive armada stretching across key strategic waters. At the same time, the presence of such powerful forces also increases the risk of accidental escalation. In tense environments, even small incidents can trigger larger confrontations. History has shown that misunderstandings, miscalculations, or unexpected encounters between military forces can quickly spiral into crises. Despite the dramatic headlines surrounding the deployment, military officials emphasized that the purpose of the buildup was to maintain stability and protect U.S. interests and allies. The presence of multiple carriers allows commanders to respond rapidly to emerging threats while also maintaining a constant deterrent posture. For the sailors and aviators aboard these massive warships, however, the deployment represents something far more immediate: long months at sea in one of the world's most sensitive geopolitical hotspots. Each carrier is essentially a floating city with thousands of personnel operating aircraft, maintaining complex systems, and conducting continuous operations day and night. Flight decks remain active around the clock as fighter jets launch for patrol missions, surveillance aircraft monitor regional activity, and helicopters conduct logistics operations. Behind the scenes, engineers, technicians, and support crews work continuously to keep the enormous machines functioning in the harsh maritime environment. While the deployment of 3 aircraft carriers may appear dramatic, it also reflects the long-standing role of the U.S. Navy in maintaining a forward presence around the world. By positioning forces close to potential conflict zones, the United States aims to prevent crises from escalating while maintaining the ability to respond quickly if necessary. As tensions in the Middle East continue to evolve, the presence of these powerful naval forces will likely remain a key factor shaping the region's security landscape. Whether the deployment ultimately serves as a deterrent that prevents conflict or becomes part of a larger geopolitical confrontation remains uncertain. What is certain is that the arrival of multiple U.S. aircraft carriers near Iran marks one of the most significant naval deployments in recent years. In a region where strategic decisions can have global consequences, every movement of these massive warships sends a message. And in the complex chessboard of international politics, those messages are rarely accidental.